Good morning and welcome to Sports Desk live on Facebook, also live on Comcast Channel 26. I'm your host, Ed Nunez, along with our producer, Alden Iwani. Our guest today is the Cueva boys basketball coach, Joyce, on his way to Farmington as the Bears will take on Farmington tonight. Coach, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Coach, I talked to every coach, every coach that we cover has said this. It's been a crazy up and down yo-yo season, a lot of emotions, a lot of missed games, a lot of this and that frankly speaking, some of them are uncontrollables. You have so much experience in coaching, and we'll get to that in a second. Talk about where the Bears are now, 6-1, lost a tough game to Sandia on Friday night. You're going to play Farmington. You beat them already earlier in the season, and Farmington coming off a tough loss last night to West Mesa. Kind of tell us where the Bears are right now at this point of the season.
I just think everybody's playing on a level playing field. We're all dealing with the unknown. We're all dealing with the uncertainty. And so, I don't feel like anybody necessarily has an advantage over anybody. It's just the reality of the situation. And I think the challenges that we're having right now are no different than anybody else. It's just, can you put that together over time and have some solutions together that could lead to some success down the road, especially down the stretch. So I like our team. I like our makeup. We got, a lot of young guys in terms of experience, not just in terms of grade, but guys who played last year. And so I think we're probably about where we're at, where we should be right now.
Coach, I talked to you when I talked to you. Again, you have some college coaching experience, 20 years of college coaching experience, and we'll get to some of the schools you coached at. I could talk basketball with you all day long. You have so many things you want to put in, you want to offer, and we talked about that last Thursday when you played West Mesa, and it's a short season. There's things you want to work on, but you were able to get some individual coaching in. Cam Yates struggled a little bit with his footwork that night, but you took him, you said, to the auxiliary gym and worked with him a little bit as far as footwork, catching the ball, catching in triple threat position, things like that. Talk a little bit about some of the things you've been able to do. Now, people are going to concentrate as a coach. You have a wealth of knowledge, Coach. There's no question about it. Books and books of things and drills and things to make players better, not only on the court, but in the classroom as people. Talk a little bit about what you've been able to do this season in a short and condensed season.
Yeah, I just think you have to simplify it. The coaches that I worked for, and I shared with you, one of my major mentors said that, if guys aren't understanding it or your team's not getting it, cut it in half. If they still don't get it, cut it in half. They're still not sure about it, then cut it in half. And so what we've tried to do with our staff is just try to simplify it for our guys. And again, every team's dealing with that. And even though, it's humbling to have you say the experience that I have zero experience in high school. And so these high school coaches have a lot more experience with the high school game than I do. And, with that, I think that's an advantage to a certain degree. I'm usually a quick learner and quick study on that, and we'll figure it out. But, all I do is go back to the roots. You got to dig in on the fundamentals, and you got to stay with the fundamentals. And there's certain things that are principles within a program, and that's what we're trying to do within a strange preseason, off-season, season. But we'll work through it regardless. And like you said about Sed's a good kid, just like the rest of our guys. And, sometimes you just need to simplify the game because they overthink it. And I think that's happened at times. And our guys are coachable and they're trying to get better, and that's what we're working
on. Every day. Coach, I want to ask you this. Last Thursday against West Mesa, Exodus Ayers was our player of the game. Now, Exodus had 2 charges in the first half, a little bit of over penetration, and you took him out. You took him out. He spent some time on the bench. He came out in the third quarter and fourth quarter and had 20 points, and this is an athletic guard. He's 6'1". He's also a wide receiver on the football team who's barely scratched his potential. But I thought it was important, the message you gave to him, and you said this to me after the game. He was our player of the game. You said, what for? The 2 charges? So the message is like, you are the player of the game, but let's concentrate on the things that I'm telling you, the teachable moments. Talk a little bit about that, because Exodus Ayers and is going to be one of the best guards for the next 2 years. He's already one of the best there is, and in a shortened season. But he's got his potential is unlimited. But what was your message to him that night? Even though he was a player of the game, your message was, "Hey, what about the things we did wrong?"
Well, I think it's more about coaching a kid to their potential. You're trying to coach your team against the game itself, and you're coaching against your potential. And so, if his potential is to be a two-way player, which is what we've explained to all of our guys, to some degree, but some guys are more prone to be a better two-way player than be a two-way player. And so, for him, it was about we don't want to take away your aggressiveness, but you have to pick your spots. And as you pick your spots, then it's going to lead to more success for you and more success for us. And one of the things that we really emphasize within our program is that we want to get paint touches for others, not just paint touches for ourselves. And I think sometimes when guys are really aggressive, like he can be, sometimes they want to do it all on their own. And so it wasn't necessarily a punishment, because I think the game punishes you anyways, because we don't have to take you out because of the fact that you did it. We took you out because of the fact that you were in foul trouble as a result of it. And to his credit and Sed's credit as well, is they took the coaching, we took them in the back gym, we started working on some things and focused more on getting in the paint, jump stopping, feeding others. If you were ahead of your man, then go ahead and score. If you forced a rotation from a secondary defender, then look for somebody else. And I think we did that better last game. It didn't end up with the result that we wanted, but we're dealing with habits, and we're big on trusting our reps. And we tell our guys, once you get in the game, in the heat of the game, your reps are going to come out. So whatever those are, they're going to be who we are. And so those guys responded, and it was good. And he's being coachable, but I think he has a lot more to give from a defensive standpoint and rebounding standpoint that he's given us at this point. And I think he can handle that burden.
With his size and athleticism, I would agree. And I thought he showed that in the third quarter. West Mesa, under Sean Schreier, they're a good team. Sean Schreier is an excellent coach. But I thought the athleticism of Cueva eventually wore them down. And you're right about exodus errors from the guard position with the size and length and athleticism. The rebounding, I think, is going to come for sure. And you want it to be, hey, when we can right now, why wait for that? Because he definitely has the body to do that. I wanted to ask you about some of your other players. We mentioned Cam Yates, Kenner Grant, Michelle Sojojuan, Keelan Atkinson, Josiah Gilliford, Jashawn Lowry. Now, Jashawn Lowry, we talked about him the other day. He gave you 8 points the other night against Sandia. And Jashawn Lowry was a big contributor last year. And he was coming off of football season. And you mentioned he wasn't quite in football or basketball condition. But he had a decent game the other night. Is he picking up the pace a little bit, and maybe somebody you can count on the last week and a half of the season?
Yeah, I think he's just transitioning from football, and he was dealing with a kind of a nagging knee injury. And whenever you have one of those nagging deals, you always feel like you're a little bit hesitant, and it keeps you from getting in shape. But collectively, I like our guys, 1 through 12, and what we can bring to the table. I've been particularly pleased with Josiah Guilford, who's JoJo, and he's running our point. We have a number of guys who were more JV players last year who are now learning how to play at the varsity level. So I think when you take an experienced guy like Jashawn, and then you take an experienced guy like Keelan, and you're trying to combine them with some JV guys and some younger guys like a JoJo, a Sed Yates, and then also like a Gabe Seiss, who played JV but's now senior. I think it's a challenge, to put that together in a short period of time. But I think even within that, I like our team and what we can do. And I think if we just play together and play to our strengths at the end, we're going to be a tough out, and we give ourselves a chance every game.
Tonight, again, Farmington tonight. And what's the message to a team? Because sometimes when you beat a team pretty good. You beat them pretty good the first time. They were coming off a tough loss to West Mesa by 2 last night. Were you able to watch that game at all?
Yeah, we watched part of it. We watched every team that we play, we try to focus more on us and just, really understand other teams' tendencies, especially in a short season. You can only do so much with that. You don't want to inundate your guys with too much information. And so we focus in on what we're doing. If we do what we do, I think it will lead to success. But you also don't want to be caught off guard with something that maybe they were doing recently that they didn't do, in the past. But I think they've gotten better over time and they're disciplined over time. And, we got to do some of those same things that we did the first game, but now do it on the road, which is not an easy task. But we're definitely not taking them lightly.
Coach, it's always tough to, especially get off the bus. And it's a 4-hour bus ride, I think, to the Four Corners area. And sometimes you get off the bus and the legs are a little bit flat, and then you have to get that energy. You have to meet the energy, and Farmington's going to want to protect their home court for sure. But I wanted to ask, you took over for Frank Castillo, and you played for Coach Castillo, and Coach Castillo was the only coach the Cueva ever had. The first coach, five state championships, one of the best coaches in New Mexico high school history. What did it mean for you to come home? And, again, Greg Brown went back to Albuquerque High as a head coach there. What did it mean for you to come back and take over at your alma mater, the Cueva?
Honestly, there's a couple words that come to mind when I think about it, and they are, it's an honor and it's a privilege. I'm never going to fill Coach Castillo's shoes. I'm not trying to do that. As I mentioned to you before, I took over at the junior college that I played at as well. So I played for a previous coach and took over for him. I was the third coach in 65 years at that junior college. And so to take over here, once again, it's an honor and a privilege. And anything that we accomplish, it's going to be built on what Coach Castillo established and what the previous coaches that I played for and came after me and the players that I played with and came after me established. And so I'm just honored and privileged to be here. And Coach accomplished so much. He started, from scratch, and that was a challenge. We're not starting from scratch. I'm comfortable with the expectation. On off the court, which does. I didn't get any high school jobs over the last.
We seem to have lost a temporary connection with Coach Joyce. Let's take a break and come back to the sports desk after these messages.
I like Trujillo a lot. I watched him play last year. Murillo puts it on the deck, high window, and scores.
Oh, beautiful feed inside for Palacio.
Stay in, and she's going to anticipate that pass and get a steal. Good job, Coach, leaving her in the game. Little Euro step as the defense goes by. Volcano Vista. And there they are, tipping it to themselves. That's a really nice, intuitive basketball play there. That's instinct.
Great pass to Richardson. Layups up and it's good. What a pass by Dominguez. Good job by Asia Amir. Splits two defenders, puts it up, scores, and is fouled. Great shot by Asia Amir.
Dangerous pass. Johnson in transition. Look at him burst through with a hammer jam.
Ahead to Murillo. Murillo will put it down with the authority. The
we'll see that
Double
on the
pump
highlights.
slam. Wow.
Zay, can I sing him happy birthday?
No, by all means.
Well, but before I do that, I want to make sure that, like, my papa, my dad, Mike Brown, this one's for you. We love you. Everybody out here loves you. I just want to make sure that you know that. You're the best coach, dad, everything in the world. I just want to make sure you know that. So, Zay, this one's for you, man. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Zay, man. Happy birthday to you. Thank you very much. I'm here as much as you need me.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
S5 on Comcast Channel 26, also streamed on Facebook. I'm Ed Nunez, along with our producer, Alden Iwani, our special guest, the Cueva boys basketball coach, Brian Joyce. And Coach, go ahead and finish up your thought about Coach Castillo, about what it meant for you to return to your alma mater and be the coach there.
Yeah, I just said that it was 2 words. It's an honor and a privilege. And, you know, Coach established everything that was here. And I let him know, you know, how honored I was to be back. And again, I don't look forward to filling his shoes or anything like that. But I also know that, you know, we have an expectation here and we're trying to reach a certain level. And anything that we accomplish is going to be on top of what Coach Castillo built and the other coaches and the other players before me.
Coach, I want to ask you this too. You mentioned Brian O'Neill, the former Cibola guard and the former Cibola head coach, a great guy. I love Coach O'Neill. But I also want to mention Joey Vigil, the former APS superintendent, the former St. Pius guard in 1970, who was one heck of a player, mentor to a lot of young players. Talk about what his message was back in the day to you, because I know you worked out a lot with him. He really believed in you. If he was still here, rest in peace, he would be so proud of you. Talk about his influence on your life.
Yeah, I just think throughout our careers, we have people along the way that, you know, have influenced us. And, you know, we look back on it and realize, I think it wasn't about us. It was about their investment in us. And throughout time, I think that everybody needs to have somebody that believes in them. And sometimes that's a parent, sometimes that's a mentor, sometimes that's a coach. And I was fortunate to have coaches and mentors who really believed in me. And, you know, Joe was one of those people, and he was best man at my wedding. And Brian was one of those, Coach O'Neill was one of those people, and so was Coach Castillo. So I wouldn't be where I was at without those people investment in me and believing in me. And in turn, you know, obviously I had to put in the work, but when you have people who believe in you, they understand what your potential is. And you need to have somebody who believes in your potential before you do, so that, you know, you can keep moving forward despite the adversity and despite the challenges.
That's the challenge, is when the adversities come up, when we hit a wall, and we all hit them. And I think you've had some great people. You mentioned mentors in your life, and you count among your mentors. James Borrego is one of your references. You've got great references: Bill Peterson, Grant McCaslin, Vince Walden, Leon Rice, and these are some big names in college basketball. Going over your college basketball experience, you were the Western Nemaya Community College coach for 2 years, Northwestern Junior College coach, Liberty assistant coach, 2009 through 2015. So basketball coaching before you came to La Cueva, 20 years worth of that. Administration, you had 15 years of working in that. Faculty advising, 14 years. So all this experience that you brought to La Cueva, you've got a great family, by the way. Your wife, Tina, son, Dalton, and daughter, Reagan, who I got to meet last week at West Mesa. What are all these things, again, your experiences from coaching, administration, faculty, and the mentors that you've had? What has that meant to you? Where you mentioned growing, and a person like Brian Joyce definitely isn't done growing, but you've definitely had some great experience in the past, Coach. How has that helped you go be to where you are right now?
was really fortunate to have people along the way that helped me out, and I had people along the way that I either worked for or worked with that contributed to my life. You know, a lot of people don't know this. I didn't grow up, just near La Cueva and up in that district. I lived in 14 different places around the city in the first 11 years that I was growing up. And so because of that, I was, connected to a lot of different people and a lot of different socioeconomic backgrounds and a lot of different areas of the city. That's why I feel such a connection and affinity for Albuquerque and New Mexico. And then when you get married, then you have those people who jump on the train and go through the journey with you. And my wife, Tina, and son, Dalton, and daughter, Reagan. When you get into coaching, especially in college, you're going to be in different locations over a period of time. And those guys in my family endured a lot, to allow me to pursue something that I love because, for the sake of me influencing other kids in a way that people influenced me. So I was fortunate to have teachers, mentors, coaches, and people along the way. And I grew up at the Albuquerque Boys Club, going to Old Town and the Heights, and had a lot of different things that contributed to who I am and the success that I've had and the opportunities I've had. And I just feel very fortunate and thankful, for all that from family and friends and those kind of things. So, being at all these different schools allowed me to connect with all these different people and connect with all these different coaches, and to have an opportunity to influence all these different kids is an unbelievable blessing and a privilege. And hopefully guys' lives are changed as a result of being on our program, which I know they have been because we've heard comments back. And hopefully we can do that in the future for other people and, influence them to influence other people and make this community and make this, this world a better place.
Message is not just about basketball. It's about building good men. Coach Woody at Highland, I've gone to his practices, and he says the same thing. We're building men here, good husbands, good fathers. And it's a different message that when you and I played. Coach Castillo probably had that message for you back in the day when I played. It was more just do the job. And if you got a compliment, like Coach Ray Rodriguez said, you were lucky. You didn't play for that. You just did your job. So I think things have evolved in coaching over the years. There's no question about it. And I think with all the experience that you have, and you're still learning, you had a shooting academy for a while. Is that true? You had a shooting academy that you ran for a while?
Yeah, I mean, we owned our own gym, and then we also did some personal training and did some personal things for guys in terms of just trying to improve their overall skill level. It was just about shooting is everything in that way. And we're going to try to do everything that we can down here in Albuquerque to help any of these kids to improve on their skill level, but also hopefully help them mature from a mental standpoint. And then with my contacts, hopefully we can draw people in to improve and enhance the recruiting down here for everybody.
You mentioned that the other day to me, the other night, about recruiting in New Mexico. New Mexico's not exactly a hotbed, Coach, and at that you could help improve that. And you have many connections, as you mentioned on your resume here, just outstanding resume connections for sure. But I want to ask you this, and I've asked every coach that I've talked to, what's been your biggest challenge in dealing with this pandemic? It's been yo-yo emotions. I talked to Coach Clifton Davidson at Bosque Prep last night. They've lost games. It's one player's out. We missed 2 games here. El Dorado, your opponent on Saturday and Friday and Saturday. We'll talk about them in a minute. They've been locked down for 2-3 weeks now. What's been your biggest challenge in dealing with this pandemic as far as coaching your own team?
Well, interestingly, I think when you're in it for a period of time, you start to realize it's not about you, and you need to lean on your resources. When you first start out, you think you know it all. And so, just like you mentioned, the guys that I know on my resume, Coach, James Borrego, he and I knew each other growing up from being at Academy in Albuquerque. And Coach Peterson was assistant at Baylor. Coach Walden is assistant at Texas A&M. Grant McCaslin was my assistant, and he's now the head coach of North Texas. And Leon is a good friend of mine who was originally at Boise, or at Gonzaga, and now the head coach at Boise. So what I did is I just reached out to my resources. I said, hey, guys, what did you deal with? And as I talked to these guys, they were dealing with the same thing regardless of the level. And they just said, hey, just continue to focus in on the fundamentals, continue focusing on the relationships and building into guys to helping them and help them get better overall from a mental standpoint and a physical standpoint, and just work through every day. If you have 3 show up, coach 3. If you have 8 show up, coach 8. If you have 4 show up, coach 4. And we shifted our thinking to that instead of going off the traditional model. And so having all those resources and having an NBA coach who's a friend of mine and Division I coaches that are friends of mine, and even a coach who's on the on the staff from the national championship team at Baylor, a friend of mine, I'm like, if they're dealing with that at that level and that's what they're doing, then we shouldn't deviate from that at our level. And just trying to get these guys to understand, hey, the fundamentals matter, the team stuff matters. Let's continue to move forward and just build on the little things and improve day by day. And I think we've done that. Could we have done better? Absolutely. Under the circumstances that everybody's dealing with, it's a reality. Nobody had a blueprint for this situation this year.
One of the things I want to ask you too is the game has changed so much since you and I played. And I played 10 years before you, and there's 3-point shooting when you played. But how has that changed as far as the way you coach? Because a lot of kids these days, you mentioned fundamentals, the catching the ball, the triple threat position, the fundamental passing, the dribbling, the weak side rebounding, shoot your guns on defense. There's so many different things. How has coaching changed since when you were playing with Coach Castillo and the things that you're trying to incorporate with your team now in a pandemic shortened season?
I don't know how much it's changed in terms of the emphasis on the fundamentals. You're still trying to make sure that you're, solid defensively, you share the ball. I mean, there's some things that are principally the same. The strategy in terms of using, the 3-point line or using the shot clock or using, whatever that might be, I think that changed, but the fundamentals are similar. In that respect. And one thing that I will say, and that I'll tell you, this was related to the topic that you asked about later. I'm just so proud of our seniors because these guys had to come back not knowing if they had a senior year. And that's a tough thing to commit to. I was committed. I was a gym rat, but I don't know if I'd have just showed up at the gym knowing I didn't have a season. And these guys did that. And so within all that, just kind of connecting the dots, I think that there's still a fundamental way that you play. There's a fundamental way that you coach. And I think the strategy changes based on, some new rules within the game. But I think some of those same fundamentals that you played with, that I played with, are still, I still think that they're relevant. At some point, I would guess the high school game, even in New Mexico, will transition to a shot clock, which has not happened right now. But I think that will happen, over time. But you still need to be able to, every time up the court, get a good shot, or on defense, force a bad shot. And on offense, make sure you share the ball, make sure that the ball's moved. And then on defense, you try to prevent that. And I think there are some fundamental things that are the same, but some of the strategies are different.
Yeah, some things will never change about the game for sure. One last question, Coach, before we let you go. Farmington tonight, El Dorado Friday, El Dorado Saturday. What do the Bears need to do to finish up the season? And seating the selection show on Saturday, and the Bears should be part of that state tournament selection next week. What do the Bears need to do to finish the season strong?
Not take today for granted. We say, any day you can be shut down. If something happened today, we can be shut down for the year. So play. We've said this in the past, and this from going up with old school guys. They always said this might be your last game, and they would say it symbolically or as a metaphor. But the reality is, for these kids, it could be. So we're going up here assuming we're going to play a game. But I know Sandia drove up here 2 weeks ago, and they canceled the game due to COVID. So we're going to come up, focused in on today's game, not focusing on Thursday or Saturday. Try to take care of business here, improve, embrace the day, do the best that we can, and then we'll, if everything works out, then we'll play another game on Thursday, and then we'll play another game on Saturday, and then God willing, we'll have another opportunity next week. So we don't take anything for granted. We count it as a privilege. We don't focus in on tomorrow and just be thankful for another bus ride, another trip, another game, and hopefully we can complete it tonight and take care of business. So we're thankful for another opportunity.
Coach Brian, Joyce, we would sure appreciate you joining us today on the Sports Desk. We wish you best of luck tonight against Farmington, and then Friday and Saturday against El Dorado. Thank you so much.
Ed, thanks for all you do and what ProView's doing and all these networks trying to cover, New Mexico basketball. We're thankful for all you guys.
Coach Joyce, good luck tonight. For producer Alden Niawani, I'm Ed Nunez. We'll see you next Tuesday on the Sports Desk.